Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Daily, and today we're going to be talking Star Wars. Not that that's out of the ordinary at all on this channel, but I thought I'd let you know what we're talking about today. So this is a bit of an Ask Daily style video, I suppose, / speculation video. This was actually requested in my last video where I was talking about EA's absence at E3. So shout out to the people asking me to talk about Star Wars Squadrons. I'd love to know what you guys think about Star Wars Squadrons and the topics we're going to talk about in today's video in the comments section below. I like to respond and get some feedback going on these types of videos, things like that. So let me know in the comments. Be sure to hit that like button if you do enjoy these videos, and subscribe if you have not already. So either way, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Squadrons today, and in particular how I think it is the weirdest Star Wars game we have gotten in a very long time, and that's not a bad thing. This is not a hate video. I think Star Wars Squadrons is fantastic, but I'll explain why. It's very weird. This game, in particular from EA, came out of absolutely nowhere. If you think about everything that EA was doing before Star Wars Squadrons came out, this was the last game that I ever expected them to make. A somewhat realistic, in terms of the piloting mechanics, fighter game based in the Star Wars universe. Completely VR compatible and really well polished with fun multiplayer and tight controls, things like that. I just find it very bizarre that they would release this style of game given everything that they were releasing before this. Before this, they were dropping updates to Star Wars Battlefront 2 relatively regularly, which was fantastic. They were also dropping Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which was, again, fantastic. They had a pretty good run of solid mainline games going on. Granted, whenever they released these games, it took them a long time to let the fans know that they were actually coming out. Updates were few and far between in terms of developer logs and, anticipating news. Usually it was just kind of like, hey, guess what? Here's an update. Instead of, really letting people know what was coming and things like that. I feel like that's something that EA has always faltered with when it comes to the Star Wars franchise. However, the games before Star Wars Squadrons, like I said before, were very quintessential Star Wars games. You had Battlefront 2, which is the continuation of the Battlefront franchise. This is a very mainline Star Wars game with lots in it to do. And then you've got yourself Jedi Fallen Order, which is another sort of quintessential Star Wars game. The single-player Jedi experience. It's been done in Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. It's been done in The Force Awakens, etc., etc. It's a very sort of standard and smooth Star Wars game to release. You know it's going to sell. You know a single-player Star Wars game is going to sell. You know a Star Wars Battlefront Star Wars game is going to sell. These are home runs from the very beginning. So when EA, let me emphasize, EA, the money-hungry company that it is, announced that they were going to be releasing Star Wars Squadrons, I was very confused by this. Because at the end of the day, Star Wars Squadrons is not a very safe game to release. It has such a niche audience to it that it's very bizarre that they would spend so much development time and so many resources in creating this game. It is very much so a side Star Wars game. And when I think of other side Star Wars games, quote unquote, in the past that have been done by like LucasArts, I think of things like Empire at War, or I think of things like Star Wars Starfighter, or, Star Wars Pod Racing. Games that, can be fan favorites. They're fantastic games, but they're games that doesn't necessarily go towards a wider audience, like, say, Battlefront does, or, say, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy does. These are filler Star Wars games that you release between those mainline games. A little taste for the community so that people are still getting Star Wars content before the next mainline game comes out. So that makes a lot of sense for Lucas Games to do, because they were releasing Star Wars content regularly. I mean, they released so many Star Wars games, it was absurd. I mean, some of the greatest Star Wars games of all time came out of those eras, and they were releasing mainline Star Wars games with those filler games in between them to keep the audience satisfied. But for EA, a company that has had the license to Star Wars exclusively for the past decade almost to release Star Wars Squadrons after only releasing Star Wars Battlefront 1, Star Wars Battlefront 2, and Jedi Fallen Order. Is that it? I think that might be it, right? Is that all the Star Wars games they've released? Minus like any mobile games, I suppose. I think that's really it. So to have that company who has spent such little time in the Star Wars IP to release a side game after all of their mainline games have come out, like they've literally done Star Wars Battlefront 2, and Jedi Fallen Order, and then they choose to release Squadrons randomly after all of that, it just seems very bizarre to me. If anything, this game would fit in better if it was released between one of those other games, you know, as a filler game, to keep audiences interested in the Star Wars gaming IP before the next mainline game comes out. But instead, they sort of decided to throw it out there after their sort of run of Star Wars games has been up, because they're losing exclusivity pretty soon. I'm sure they'll still be able to release Star Wars games. However, it just seems bizarre that after they lose exclusivity, they release this game. But that being said, it is a really fun game. I mean, Star Wars Squadrons, while not necessarily my cup of tea, is great. It's a polished game. It's exactly what people would want out of a Star Wars fighter simulator. The controls are good. The details in the game are beautiful. The fighting is actually pretty fun. So it's a great game. It's all around just a bang-up game. It does things well. That all being said, it is a super niche game, like I was saying earlier in this video. I mean, the number of audience members of Star Wars who really love fighter games like this, it's pretty slim, to be completely honest. When I was getting footage for this video, I had to wait in some pretty long queues to actually get into a multiplayer game, which sort of shows I don't think too many people are actively playing this game anymore. And I understand why. I mean, it's not really my cup of tea. I've always been more of a boots on the ground kind of guy. You know, as the best pilot in the galaxy, I'm good with flying, but it's not necessarily my favorite. And in fact, I do find flying around in space kind of disorienting, and I do find it pretty frustrating after a while. I can appreciate the game for what it is, and I can appreciate that there's a lot of fans out there for this game, but it's just not really my style, and I can only last in that game for like 30 minutes before I'm like, alright, I'm done, you know, I had my fun, I had my fill, time to move on. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are the same way. I've seen a lot of comments in my videos saying that they themselves didn't really enjoy Star Wars Squadrons that much, or they couldn't really get into it and things like that. So this sort of niche approach to a game is even more bizarre to me because the audience isn't fully there for it. Yes, there are fans who absolutely love this game, and I'm so glad that they have a fantastic game that fills their fighting needs in the space of Star Wars, but it's weird for EA to have made this game when they knew it probably wouldn't make them nearly as much money if they spent the development on, you know, Jedi Fallen Order 2 or Battlefront 3 or any other sort of style of Star Wars game. I can really only see this game getting made as a passion project, and EA is certainly not, you know, one for passion projects. And that can especially be seen by the short lifespan of this game. This game was supposed to be a live service game frequently updated, however, they only made it about 6 months into it being live service before they decided to kind of pull the plug on it. I mean, they don't release any more updates. Updates for this game are completely done, and before that, most of the updates were relatively cosmetic. It wasn't anything all that crazy. So it's clear there wasn't any executive out there gunning for this project to continue to get wild development for it. So therefore, I have a bit of a theory as to why Star Wars Squadrons was in fact made. Well, I have two theories. Either one, it was people trying to bank on things like Star Wars Pod Racing and Star Wars Starfighter doing super well in the past. They're trying to bank on that and see if it's actually possible in the mainstream to have another game similar to those. However, I think those games did well in a bubble. Star Wars Pod Racing did fantastic because people loved playing it on the N64, a console where there wasn't that many games to actually play on it, and there was even less Star Wars games to play on it. I think those dogfighting games were reaching mass popularity simply because of the Star Wars hype around Lucas games at the time, as well as the sort of acceptance of those games being available on console at the time without too much else being available on console at the time. So maybe it was EA trying to test the waters with a dogfighting game to see if people would want a bigger dogfighting game in the future. My other idea of why Star Wars Squadrons did end up getting made is because it might have been an extension or a prototype for Star Wars Battlefront 3, which could be coming out in the future. Most Star Wars Battlefront games do come with some sort of starfighter mode, which is why I always thought Star Wars Squadrons was kind of weird when Star Wars Battlefront 2 had its own starfighter mode in it. So what if Star Wars Squadrons was EA developing the technology to make better starfighter battles for Star Wars Battlefront 3, but they ended up realizing that they had enough material here for an entire game in of itself, and they'll just keep the technology for when Star Wars Battlefront 3 inevitably comes out and maybe add to it for that game in particular. Those are my two theories, because at the end of the day, I still think Star Wars Squadrons is a great game, but it's very weird to me why it came out, especially considering the time in the Star Wars franchise timeline it did come out. Again, EA has just finished up their exclusivity deal for Star Wars, so it's very bizarre that they would release this after all of their mainline Star Wars games have already been released. It's just bizarre to me. It's very bizarre. Maybe they're trying to corner the Star Wars fighting market before another company can get to it? Who knows? You know, only they know. But again, I just thought it was an interesting topic to talk about. Someone had asked me to talk about it in the last video. I'm having fun doing these more sort of Star Wars speculation videos about the older games and things like that, so I hope you guys can get down with them as well. Let me know if you have any other topics you want me to cover, any games you'd like me to cover, things like that. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoy these videos. Be sure to let me know your own thoughts and opinions on everything I've discussed in the comment section below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that like button. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Be sure to click that subscribe button for more content, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted to whenever I live stream or upload. Thanks so much.